Howdy ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another One Summon video. Today we're going to be covering the Jaws pistol on how the damage is calculated, what does crit damage, weak spot damage, weapon damage, status damage, what does unstable bomber damage bonus mean, all of these sorts of things, and I will go through mods and which ones you should put on and which ones you shouldn't use, or which ones you should consider using. All the damage formulas today we're going to be covering and talking about these. First of all, what's important for this gun is obviously crit damage and weapon damage bonus, and mostly PSI intensity. I have 125. Let's go to blueprints. Let's click on the pistol, right click on Jaws, details, press X on keyboard. This is a list where you can see all the keywords in the game and how they work, but you will also be able to see here how the damage works for this gun. So Jaws uses unstable bomber, that's why we're reading about it here. It triggers one blast damage off your 100% PSI intensity, and then after 0.1 second with a blast radius of 1.5 meters, the damage decays over the explosion distance down to a minimum of 50%. That's it, that's all we need to know how this unstable bomber works. So first of all, if you open your inventory while holding a gun, obviously you want to crouch, because if you don't crouch, sometimes you'll go AFK and your damage might change over here. So just make sure you crouch when you open inventory. And then our damage is 440 with Jaws. That's our base damage. However, there is a bug with the dummy right now. So if I shoot the dummy, I will do 418 damage, as you can see. And the reason for that is because guns that have a suppression type of deals more damage against deviants, deals more damage against Rosetta, which also the Scar has. As you can see, penetration deals more damage against Rosetta. It's the same thing with these weapons. They will do less damage. As you can see, our Scar is 128 damage. So if I shot, we will do 122 damage, as you can see. That is because if I go to blueprints, and here you can filter basically the types. So penetration and suppression is bugged with the dummy. They will do 5% less damage to the dummy, while impact will do 25% more damage to the dummy. And I don't know why this is still a thing, but if I put my bounce weapon right now and shoot at the dummy, our bounce weapon has 323 damage. If I shot the dummy, I will do 404 damage. But our damage is 323. So 323 plus 25%, it goes exactly to 404. Now, I don't know why, but this is only for impact. All suppression damages is supposed to do 25% more damage, but this only works for impact. So if you're testing your guns and your damage is not matching when you calculate it, that is just because you will have either penetration type on your gun or either suppression type. And with these ones, it's bugged against a dummy. We have copper ammo on the gun, so our damage is 440. Every time, if you want to calculate your damage against a dummy, you will have to put 5% less when calculating. Let's go through now how weapon damage bonus works, how crit damage bonus works for Jaws. It's the same thing as any other weapon. It's calculated the same way. Let me just put any random armor on it. You can see that I have a armor equipped right now, and it gives us weapon damage 9% and crit damage 9%. So now we're gonna take 440 multiplied with 1.09, and this is gonna be our damage, 480 with weapon damage 9%. Obviously, after the calculation, you have to put minus 5%, and we will do 556 damage after we shoot in the body. There you go. It's obviously 455, but there cannot be decimals, so we have to round it to 456, the final damage. Dummy is considered a deviant, which means it's considered a normal type enemy. So I'm going to put any pants right now, and I'm just going to search on my pants damage against normal enemies. Let's put in just something that, like, as you can see, this one has 2%. You can see after we put the damage against normal enemies, we have damage bonus against common enemies 2% now. And the weapon damage bonus is 9%. This is going to be the formula for it. We're going to put in our base damage, which is 440. That's our gun damage, not PSI intensity, by the way. We're going to add a multiplier, which was the weapon damage 9%. And then we're going to add another multiplier, which is our damage against normal enemies, which is 2%. That is our final damage right here, which will round to 489. And you can see that the base damage is here. Then it's multiplied with 9% weapon damage bonus. The divided by 100 is because we're turning it into 0.09. And this is basically just a multiplier in the brackets. The 1 is just to add to the multiplier, so we always include the 1 to add up to the final damage. Just ignore this number. It's just basically the formula. All you need to care for is replace the numbers here with a new multiplier. So for example, if it was crit damage, you would put in the amount of crit damage you have. So obviously this gets multiplied with our base damage right here. Then we'll get a new number. Then we have another multiplier, which is our damage against normal enemies. We put 2 in here because that's our 2% of damage against normal enemies. Same thing again, and if you want to just add more multipliers, you just, add it like so. Let me copy this. That's 1 multiplier, then that's another multiplier, and if you want to add more, you just paste another one. That's another multiplier. Could be like crit damage, 35%. There you go. You want to add a new multiplier, you just copy paste it and just keep adding these percentages, whatever number you have. But basically this is our damage right now, so 489. Let's take that number, we're gonna paste that in and just multiply it with 0.95 because that's obviously 5% damage reduction, and that's the damage we're gonna do to the dummy. 465, as you can see. Now you can obviously do minus 5% in your calculator and it will give you the same results, or you can just do multiply with 0.95. It will also give you the same results. But yeah, that's our damage we're doing, 465. So whenever you test your damage, just remember that damage bonus against common enemies inflates your damage, and you will do less or more if you have damage against normal enemies. This works the same way to elite enemies. So let's say I was fighting Gluton here, the dude that stomps the ground, and that shoots projectiles and spawns 3 minions at you. Or if you're fighting a Great One boss, which is bosses found in the monolith, you'll just do more damage against them, depending on how much damage bonus against an enemy you have. So since the dummy is considered a deviant, we do 2% more damage to it because of this bonus here. Now obviously if I equip this, we will do 2% less damage, just like we did before. 456. So our crit damage right now is 34%. Let's add a multiplier of 34. That's our formula right here. And you can see if I remove the 2% of damage against normal enemies, our damage will decrease by 13. So that's our base damage, 440, wide damage, multiplied by 9% weapon damage bonus, multiplied by 2% damage against normal enemies, and multiplied by crit damage, 34%. All you need to do is just copy this if you want to add more multipliers to it, and just change the number over here. You don't really need to change the 1 or the 100. You don't need to care about those. All you need to care about is the actual number over here. If we just put this number in the calculator, do minus 5%, like so, we will get our final crit damage, which is 623. We go in game and shoot in the body, we're gonna do 623 damage in the body shot because we applied the 5% damage reduction. You can see we did 641 right there. And the reason for that, I'm wearing a mod that increases my crit damage if I crit by 4%. So it's going to go from 623. Let me just equip something that gives me more crit rate. Okay, this crit boost, we have a 15% crit damage on it. We basically have to add it up to our weapon damage bonus, which is 9%, would be 13.8. Our crit damage would be increased by 49, like that. If we check our stats, 49 crit damage, weapon damage 13.8, damage bonus against common is 2%, and great, everything's matching. So how much damage we're gonna do? We're gonna do 760, let's copy that, quickly paste in calculator, minus 5%. We're gonna do 723 crit damage to the body shot. Let's test it. 723, as we calculated, 723. Now obviously it's increasing because we have Deadshot on. Remember, it's 61 now. After reload, it drops back to 49. So Deadshot makes us crit damage more. That's why it's increasing. But our first crit is going to be 723, which is matching the calculations. Nice. Cool. All right, so now you know how crit damage works and how it's applied. Everything you see here in your inventory is multiplicative to base damage. It's multiplicative to base damage. Common enemies, to base damage. Weapon damage bonus to the base damage, which is here. This is your base damage over here. Do not look at the damage your Jaws is doing. Just look at your base damage on the primary weapon here. Just gonna quickly explain that once you do a headshot damage, it is additive with your crit damage. However, headshot damage is multiplying off your base damage. So as you can see, our weapon damage is 440. Let's put that in here. And then our weak spot damage is 60 right there. And then our weapon damage again is 440. And our crit damage is 25. Then we have our last final number, which is base damage, weapon damage, which is 440 again. Let's take this formula, copy it. Let's put this into the calculator. And as you can see, this is our final damage to the headshot with crit damage. However, if you do multiply by 95, we will get the wrong number. So that's why I'd like to copy this number we have. And then in the calculator, just paste it and do minus 5%. This is our headshot plus crit damage. actual damage. So 773. If we go in game and shoot on the head, we're gonna do 669. That's our weak spot damage. Now with crit, it will be 773. So let's try to crit. 773, as you saw. 773. Your base damage gets multiplied with crit damage. All right, that's one number. And then your base damage gets multiplied by weak spot damage. And then the two values that we have are additive, and they get both summed up and added together, which gives us the final result. No, crit damage does not multiply off your weak spot damage. All right, that's it. Now we're going to cover status damage bonus and explode and blast damage bonus, and then lastly unstable bomber damage bonus. And then we're gonna cover point detonation mod, which is unstable bomber final damage plus 25%. What that is. What does final damage mean? Let's read the gun's passive. You basically get 30% elemental damage for 8 seconds after you hit a weak spot. The unstable bomber can also crit and has crit rate plus 25%. That is just a bonus for your crit rate for your unstable bomber. It's not for critting on body shots like this. It's for critting when you apply the bomb on the enemy, like this one. So it has 25% more crit rate. That's basically what unstable bomber crit rate bonus is. You can see in the cradle perk, after reloading, instant damage, power surge, and unstable bomber is plus 25% for 4 seconds. So as soon as you reload your gun, and if you check in your inventory, you will gain a unstable bomber damage bonus 25%. Now what that is just a new multiplier for your damage. So for example, right now, if we go to blueprints, right click on our jaws, remember where we went, your blast damage is dependent of your 100% PSI intensity, which is this. Our intensity is 294. That's our base damage for blast. Back to the calculator, let's put in our PSI intensity, 294. We're also gonna go into our cradle perk and put in the handgun enhancement, damage plus 20%. And what this actually does, it gives you 20% status damage, as you can see, and weapon damage 20% as well. Our blast damage right now, with the 20% status damage bonus, is obviously the same way as we calculate other damage bonuses. Let's put in 20. And this is our formula. Base damage, which is PSI intensity, right there. Not damage, 440, but PSI intensity this time, because we're calculating our elemental damage. Elemental damage is status damage, elemental damage, and unstable bomber damage. So since we have 20% status damage, that's what we're putting in. So this is status damage right here put in. It's the same formula. And that's our final damage. So always, since we're using jaws, we have to do the minus 5%. And now our blast damage is going to be 335 blast damage. If I shoot, 336, as you saw. 337. Now, the problem with jaws, our calculation is correct, but the blast damage is going to be either higher or lower. And this is just because you're going to shoot in the lower body. You're going to do a little bit more damage. You're going to shoot near the head. You're going to do lower damage. You know, blast damage is not consistent for some reason on this gun, and you cannot avoid it. So this is our estimate damage with blast, 335. It's either going to be 336, 340, 330, something like that, but it's correct. So right now, we don't have explosion blast damage bonus or blast damage bonus. If I shot in the head once, we will gain 30% damage increase. So that means our damage is going to be increasing. So back to the calculator, since explosion blast damage bonus is a new multiplier, we have to add a multiplier. That is going to be 30%. We're doing more, and that's our final damage right there. This is the base damage formula for it. We're just adding a new multiplier, which is this, just a new line, and then do minus 5%. That's our blast damage with the 30%. So I have to shoot on the head again, and now I have to trigger blast. As you can see, 438. Blast damage is 438. Now it's 437. We did a crit damage. So obviously now with the crit blast damage, our crit is 25%, right? So as you saw, if I don't shoot on the head, our blast damage will be lower, 335. But if I shoot on the head, we get that 30%, which means our blast damage is going to be 438. 441. Which matches the damage calculation. It's just off by like 3 or 6 numbers. Again, because it's inconsistent. Jaws is inconsistent with the blast damage. 420, 422, as you can see. Now, obviously, you have to consider the reloading as well. So we did a little bit more damage because I shot on the head, I reloaded the gun, and then we're doing 554 damage of blast. So obviously, we have to take the 25% here as well. Now, unstable bomber damage bonus is a different multiplier as well. As you can see, explode elemental damage bonus is another multiplier. Going back to our calculator, we have to add that 25%. And as you can see, the damage matches. This is the base formula again for it. Copy that. And if I pasted that in, this is our status damage, 20%. This is our explosion damage bonus, 30%. After you hit the weak spot, of course. And then this is our 25% unstable bomber damage bonus when you reload the gun. So if you forgot, obviously we have the 25% here. After you reload, our damage bonus is increased 25%. There you go. So that's our formula for the blast damage. Let's yank that into the calculator here. This is our damage. Let's copy that and paste it over here. Do -5%. And this is going to be our blast damage rounded to 545. So if I have to shoot in, I have to first reload the gun like this. Shoot in the head. And now we trigger blast damage. 543. Let me do this again. Reload the gun. Shoot in the head. And trigger blast. We're doing 546, which again matches the numbers. It's around 540 to 550. Blast damage is inconsistent, but that's the closest number we get, so it's matching. Now, how do we calculate crit damage? Same way. You just basically take crit damage you have. It's a new multiplier, so we go back in now again, add a multiplier. This is going to be our crit damage bonus here, although I should be actually putting it, let's put it like this. Crit damage, I'm going to put it above here. So this is going to be our crit damage, which is 25%. Let's copy this final damage. Paste in the calculator, do -5%, and it's rounded to 681 blast damage, crit damage. So shoot the gun, reload, shoot in the head, boom. Let's hopefully hope we get a crit. We did not get a crit. So let me equip gloves that have crit rate on it. Now, obviously, this one has crit damage 15%. By the way, your weapon damage bonus does not work for blast. It's only for your base damage. So only crit damage works for your blast damage, if you're wondering. Now, since we added a 15% with crit rate, we have to add that up to the multiplier. So we have 40% crit damage now instead. So I'll actually change this from 25 to 40. Now, obviously, since I equipped the gloves, you have to consider the fact that we increased our PSI intensity. We have 363 now. Before, we didn't have gloves on. We had 294. So if we equip the gloves, our base damage is increasing of the blast. So as you can see, all right, let me show you. Let's shoot again, then shoot in the head, and quickly shoot in the body. Hopefully, we're going to crit. Look at this. You can see we did 942 crit damage with the blast, when the number is supposed to be this. So we have to change the PSI intensity now, since we equipped armor. Don't forget that. So our base damage old one was 294 without the gloves. Again, I'm going to equip it to show you. 294 PSI intensity. Now I'm going to put gloves back on. 363. So we have to change this to 363. And you can see our damage is now matching. Let's copy this, paste it in the calculator, and do -5%. We're doing an exact damage, just like we were doing the dummy. It's rounded to 941. So I have to reload my gun, shoot in the weak spot, and now we're doing 988 crit damage. So let me do it again. Shoot, reload, shoot in this. We're doing 988, as you see. 977. You can see how blast damage is inconsistent, but our damage is matching. That's the estimate blast damage we're going to be doing. Now, I'm going to equip myself a helmet, just any helmet, it doesn't matter really. Actually, Lone Wolf is going to be okay because I'm going to get more crit rate, but let's say I'm going to put in Fateful Strike and it has 12% more crit damage. Okay, let's put that on. So our PSI intensity increased again, 455, all right? Okay then, so let's change our base damage to 455. Crit damage is to 82% now. So we have to change 82 like that. So this is our final damage with crit damage, status damage. This is our blast damage after shooting in the head, 30%. And this is our 25% unstable bomber damage when reloading. Let's copy this now. All right, going back in game, let's paste the number, do -5%. And this is our final damage, rounded to 1,534. This is our blast damage crit. So let me shoot in the head, reload my gun, and now shoot in the body. As you can see, we're doing 1,542 blast crit damage, which again matches our calculation. It's again estimate, so from 1,540 to 1,520, something around that number. But it's matching, so that's what matters. Now, I'm gonna actually equip my full armor, but I do not have like the full armor. I do not have Shaman because I lost it. So I'm just gonna equip, let's say just a Lone Wolf jacket or something. As soon as I crit, my crit damage increases, so it's hard to calculate that. I would have to change it to something else. Let's put on actually this mod. For the first 3 hits, yeah, let's put this on. So we won't rely on Deadshot. Now our crit damage is 97%. And we changed, and now we have damage bonus against common enemies 10%. So I'm just gonna change the 4%, which is our damage bonus against common enemies, to 10. And I'm gonna change the crit damage to 97. And then obviously we have to change the elemental damage bonus back to 30 because we unequipped the mod. This is our crit damage, status damage, elemental damage, unstable bomber damage bonus, damage against normal enemies. This is our blast damage crit damage. Paste into the calculator, do minus 5%. And it's rounded to 2,521. So shoot once, shoot in the head, boom, 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 boom. 2,523. See, the damage is very, very close. It's matching. So there you go. That is how we calculate Jaws damage. Obviously, now let's put on a most important mod, which is the point detonation. When unstable bomber hits only one enemy, unstable bomber final damage is plus 25%. I'm gonna put this on, and as you can see right off the bat, we have 50% crit damage and 4% damage against normal enemies. So let's put that on. Now, if I go check my stats again, we have crit damage is 112%. So I'm gonna quickly change the crit damage from 97 to 112. Our status damage bonus is still 20%. So we leave it at 20%. The 30% is again when you shoot in the weak spot. That's the explosion, the elemental damage bonus. So that's why we keep this here. 25% is our unstable bomber damage bonus when you reload. So I reload my gun, and as you can see, as soon as it reloads, boom, we get unstable bomber damage bonus, 25%. And then lastly, damage bonus against common enemies is 14%. So updated from 10 to 14. Now, our mod is unstable bomber final damage 25%. What does that mean? That means it's a new multiplier. It does not show up in your inventory at all. That's why we have to add a new multiplier and just put in 25. Now let's copy the formula and paste it over here. Now you can see how long it is, but again, it's just our PSI intensity here. This is our crit damage. This is our status damage bonus. This is our explosion blast damage bonus. This is our unstable bomber damage bonus. This is our damage against normal enemies. This is our point detonation final damage 25%. But yeah, that's our formula. And if we pasted this formula into the calculator over here, you can see that we get the final damage. 3,699. So I have to copy this whole thing, by the way. What are you looking at, brother? So we do minus 5%, and that's the final damage with the point detonation. All right? Let's shoot bullet. Shoot in the head, and... So you want to know what's funny? Look, I'm going to shoot my gun, shoot in the head, and we're doing only 2,820 damage. Which, if I remove the multiplier, took this damage here, paste this, minus 5%. That's our actually crit damage, blast damage. But where's the 25%? If we added the final damage bonus 25%, we would be doing more damage. But guess what? It doesn't work. So this mod, point detonation, is actually bugged. The 25% unstable bomber final damage bonus is not working. You don't get no 25% damage bonus. All you're getting from this mod is just the substats. The core effect is completely not working. Take a look at this. I'm gonna shoot again. Like, where's the damage? We're not doing that damage for some reason. So what's going on? So take a look at this. I made myself a dual fury, all right? We have a crit damage plus 40% against enemies with burn, and then a 9% crit damage. So I'm gonna add a embers on my dual fury. When burn is removed, stacks only 50%. So I'm gonna have to stack the burn stacks to show it to you guys on how it works, because the burn is gonna end until I proc my stuff on Jaws. So let me shoot this like a couple times, make it the burns, you know, get the stacks going. All right, nice, it's burning. All right, so now we're gonna shoot Jaws, reload, shoot in the head, boom. And you can see we're doing 3,000 damage. 3,152 with Jaws. Let's try it again when the target's not burning. 2,639. So you can see the difference. I'm gonna make it burn again. Let's do it again. Shoot a little bit. Inflict burn to the target. Let's get at least 3 stacks or something. There you go. Now we swap to Jaws. Shoot, reload. Shoot in the head. You can see we're doing 3,280 blast damage, okay? Alright, our crit damage is 106. The way I'm gonna calculate this is This right here is our point detonation. We're supposed to do 3,700 damage, but we're not. So the 25 is useless. That's how much we're doing with a point detonation right here. So obviously, since we have the burn mask mod, we're gonna put in 146 total crit damage. And as you can see, as we put the 40% of crit damage, our damage is 3,300. Instead of using point detonation, we're gonna use retrusion explosion. Somehow you're gonna have to like just trigger the burn on the enemy and swap to your jaws. Your blast crit damage is gonna be higher when the enemy is on burning state, you know? Now, ideal would be to just have one bullet on the dual fury if you're running jaws. So you basically just shoot once, inflict burn, and then you just swap to your jaws. You can also see wall hack. You have wall hacks when the enemy is burning. So basically, that's what you do. You just inflict burn like this. Boom, boom. Target's burning. You have wall hacks. You do this. And your blast damage is going to be increased whenever the target is just burning. Obviously, it has to be burning to do that extra 40% crit damage. But yeah, basically, point detonation is useless for jaws. The 25% just doesn't work. I don't know if this is a new bug. Eventually, they will fix it. But for now, for this day, for this second, since it's not working, the replacement could be literally what I just shown you. The crit damage 40% against enemies with burn. Obviously, this might get fixed, so point detonation will work again, maybe in like a week, or maybe like 5 days, or maybe in the next patch, who knows. But that's just really interesting to me, man. But yeah, now I'm gonna equip my full armor, my full everything. I cannot use Deadshot to demonstrate the calculation, so I'm just gonna use whatever I'm using right now. I'm gonna put a crit amplifier on my top. Let's say this one. Damage against normal enemies 6% and crit damage 12% and 9%. And on my helmet, I have a Fateful Strike. Alright, these are the mods. So let's calculate how much damage we have total. With Jaws, we have 127 crit damage. So obviously 127 plus 40 is 167 because of the Burn Mask mod. Our status damage bonus is 40%. That's because of Covered Advance, so let's put 40% here. Now I'm gonna remove the 30% explosion damage bonus because we're not gonna shoot in the weak spot to the dummy, so let's remove that. 25% just for reloading the gun. Actually, I'm gonna remove it. Yeah, let's remove it. And then the damage bonus against common enemies, this is 16%, so let me put that in there. And same goes for the right side. I'm gonna remove this, remove that. So this is our crit damage, this is our status damage, this is our damage against normal enemies. Same here, crit damage, status damage, normal enemies. Since we have new armor, I have to change this from 628 to 674. There you go, 674. You know what? I'm actually gonna include the 25% here because that's our reload bonus for the jaws. And I'm actually gonna include the 30% as well. So screw it, I'm gonna include these all over here. So this is our blast damage, crit damage with all of these things here. So this is with the burn while the enemy is burning. If it's not burning, it would be this, which we lose 600 damage. So let's do it again. Shoot, shoot, reload. Shoot on the head. 4,502, which matches the damage. So let me just copy this number. And as always, paste that in, do minus 5%. And as you can see, it completely matches the damage. It's, again, estimate because 5 by 6 by 10 numbers, the damage is going to be lower or higher. But the calculations are correct. So if I did not use the mask of burning, I'm going to put point detonation, which is this. Our damage is back to 133. So I'm going to update that here. Damage bonus against common enemies is 20. So we're going to change 14 to 20. So you can see with point detonation mod, we would be doing 25% more. But as you can see right now, we will not do that damage. So let me demonstrate you again. And of course, status damage bonus has to be changed to 40% right there. One thing I forgot to change is PSI intensity. You can see how this is 628, but here it's 674. So let me just quickly update that, 674. And as you can see, this is the damage we're going to do total with our point detonation. Remember, we did not include the 25% damage, which is this right here, 25% damage. It's not there. If we included the 25, this is the damage we're going to do, and it's going to be higher than the burn damage with the mask. This is our burn mask mod with dual fury, but this is with point detonation. So remove the 25% from the mod. Boom, the damage is lower. Let's test it. Watch this. Shoot, reload. Boom, 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 boom. 4,000 damage only. Where's the 25% damage, brother? Hello? So this damage is obviously not correct. I need to apply the damage reduction. Minus 5%. Now it's correct. 4,000 damage. So, ladies and gentlemen, the entire time you've been using Jaws the wrong way, man. Point detonation doesn't work. Congratulations, you wasted your time farming for this useless mod that is completely bugged in the game. For now, replacement is Retrusion Explosion. And by the way, to get one bullet in Dual Fury, all you need to do is put a calibration on it. Another thing is, you don't have to use Retrusion Explosion. If you use Bingo or Vilfire, you can swap to Targeted Strike, which is the exact same thing. So, for example, let's use this one, right? And let's input all the numbers again to the calculator. So 133 crit. I'm gonna basically remove every single thing. Our status damage bonus is 40% with covered advance. So 40. Damage bonus against common enemies is 16. So 16. And then no cradle perks this time. I'm not gonna shoot in the head and I'm not gonna reload the gun. So let's remove these. Now let's copy this. And then we have point detonation. We're gonna compare these two again. While this one has 20% damage against normal enemies. So 20 here. Status damage bonus is 40%. So 40% here. And lastly, 133 crit damage again. So this is gonna be our targeted strike here on calculator 1. And this is gonna be point detonation on calculator 2. Now we need to add new multipliers and we need to change the crit damage because targeted strike, which is gonna be this one, has 25% more crit damage. So we have to change 133 to 158 and we have to add a vulnerability amplifier as well. So 1.6. It depends on what you use though. Like on Vilfire, if you're using a vulnerability amplifier, which adds vulnerability plus 8%, then yeah, that's what you use. So we're using that. This is gonna be the damage with targeted strike now. Alright, let's mark the target. We marked it. Swap to Jaws. Our damage with crit damage is 3,100, something like that. 3,100. You can see the damage matches completely, so let's copy this. Paste it, minus 5%. Yeah, the damage matches with targeted strike. This is our targeted strike right there. Put that there. New calculator. This is going to be point detonation. Let's copy this. Paste it, minus 5%. There you go. That's going to be our damage rounded to 2,506. Point detonation. There you go. Let's wait for a covered advance. All right, there we go. So our damage is 2,519. 16. Completely matches the calculations. Estimate from 2,500 to 2,530-ish. Targeted strike. Back to this one. Marked enemy with Vilfire. There you go. And blast damage is 3,100. There you go. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, point detonation is useless for now. The best mods to use for Jaws for PvP is Fateful Strike, Targeted Strike, Crit Boost Violent, or Crit Amplifier. It depends on your substats. Obviously, if you have a lot of crits already, just go with Crit Amplifier. If you're missing some crit rate, go with Crit Boost, so you have a higher chance to get crit rate. But I would go with Crit Amplifier, to be honest. For the boost, you want to have Covered Advance, Crit Damage, obviously not weak spot damage like that one. For the top, you want to have either crit damage or you want to have any defensive mod that gives you like, makes you tankier like HP or something or whatever. Or this one, when using a healing shot, damage reduction by 40% for 2 seconds. Obviously, it has to be crit damage. And for the pants, you want to use a mod called Dead Shot, which is this. The substats is going to be crit damage for every single mod and weapon damage. And then on at least 2, you want to have elemental and status damage. For example, on Jaws, you want to have elemental and status damage, or if you can't get it on that, then you can get it on like a mask or gloves. You basically want to have 5 violent suffixes on any of your 5 mods, and you want to have 2 talents, which is elemental and status damage on any of your 2 mods. 5-to-2 ratio, violent and talents, basically. That's the mix we have to use. You cannot go in all on crit and you cannot go in all on talents. You want to have a mix, which is 5-to-2. Then, obviously for the cradle perk, what you want to use for Jaws is this. You want to use this. You want to use first round blast. You want to use serious detonation. You obviously also want to use tactical combo, status enhancement. These ones will add up. And if you can somehow, some way fit in another ones, you can use the steady hand and the bounty hunter. But however, it will benefit only for your base weapon damage. It will not benefit you for your blast damage. These are the cradle perks for the server I am in. Now, obviously, for the armor you want to use for PvP is Force Savior, which is what I'm using like so. Force Savior, you want to have it like this. And instead of the top, you want to have Shaman. And the Shaman Vulture top is this. That's what you want to have. I have it on my alt account. I don't have it on my main account. I'm saving my Star Chrome. As you can see, we have 20k. That's the armor set you want to use for PvP for Jaws. Obviously, for PvE, if you use Jaws for PvE, you want to have either momentum up, which is this, with crit damage, weapon damage, or you can have a deviation expert. Personally, deviation expert versus momentum up, it's almost the same, but the fire rate you get for momentum up is only for half of the max. So, and then after that, you will just gain some weapon damage. But both is okay, I guess. I mean, I think momentum up might be better for PvE because you always shoot your weapon. You know, you don't always trigger blast damage. So momentum up would be better than deviation expert, I guess. As this is for PvE, by the way, these are PvE mods. For the mask, you want to use, obviously, again, either targeted strike with crit damage and weapon damage, not point detonation. You don't want to use point detonation until they fix it. And then for the gloves, you want to use, again, either crit amplifier or crit boost, whatever the substats you have better. For the boots, you want to use, again, covered advance, crit damage, weapon damage. For the top piece, you want to use Shaman Vulture top, obviously. And the mod you want to use is either status enhancement with crit damage on it, substats, or status damage, elemental damage, or you just use basically a crit damage amplifier fully, which is this. And for the pants, you obviously want to use Deadshot. For Jaws calibration, you obviously want to go with fire rate plus 25%, magazine capacity, basically just rapid shot style, and you want to have 2 crit rates on it. And for the accessories for Jaws, you want to go with muzzle, tactical flash hider, you want to go with reflex sight, you want to go with infrared indicator and gold mag, and that's it. I advise you to pair wildfire or bingo with Jaws. So you apply that bullseye effect, you mark the enemy, and then you swap your Jaws as soon as you apply it. Now, obviously in PvP, you won't be able to do that as much, because first 5 to 6 shots is what matters really in PvP. So it could still work if you mark an enemy and go behind cover and whip out your Jaws and just destroy the enemy. You could still do that, but in an open area, first shots is what matters if you have no cover for PvP. But yeah, that's it for this Jaws video, guys. That's the updated guide. I mean, point detonation is just bugged for the mass mod, so that's the only option you have right now. Until they fix it, use targeted strike, and as soon as they fix it, go back to using point detonation. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.